Estás viendo Canal América, televisión dominicana para el mundo.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your fears.
Welcome to our episode of A Time for Truth. It's a pleasure to have you back again. I'm your host, Dr. Bernard Fialkoff, and today we're going to be going over a topic that's quite important because in the last year and a half, with COVID and all that's going on, deaths from drugs have increased in 2019 from 73,000 to 2020 of 93,000. Suicides have increased tremendously. The United Nations has come out with mental health suggestions, and now is the time where we're all looking for what do we do about these stresses? What do we do about our emotions? What can actually occur? What's possible? And so tonight we have a very special guest. And then Buddha, if you put her up on the screen, her pictures, I want to introduce Mrs. Caralyn Percy. There you go. There she is with her great husband, great man Bernie. Caralyn is a certified professional Dianetic counselor of 40 years, helping people with past traumas and mental stresses of all varieties. Caralyn received her teaching degree from Mills College of Education and subsequently taught in Brooklyn, New York at PS 289 for about 5 years. In '78, Caralyn found her love of singing and entertaining for others, leading into a highly successful professional career as an international recording artist and singer and a member of the Screen Actors Guild. She was a vocalist for the White Heat Swing Orchestra in Boston and sang the national anthem at Fenway Park. She recorded for the Dick Tracy movie soundtrack, and somehow, aside from being a wife, a mother, a professional singer, she made the time to be an international humanitarian ambassador. Caralyn accomplished these goals as president of the Way to Happiness Foundation International. The Way to Happiness is translated into 117 languages, and this program increases morality, brings peace and calm, and decreases crime and chaos wherever it has been distributed. And engineer, if you bring her up on the screen, I want to welcome to A Time for Truth show, Miss Caralyn Percy. I can't hear you. Are you saying anything? Okay, for some reason your sound is not working, and but that's okay. If you just go back on and off, and we will wait till you get your sound fixed. In the meantime, we'll continue. So many people have been searching for a solution to stress, to the anxieties of so much insecurity, so much lack of stability that's happened. How are we, Caralyn? Can you hear us now?
I can hear you well. Can you
Beautiful.
hear me?
We can hear you now. So
Yay.
There you go. Welcome to our
Okay.
Time for Truth show.
Thank you. Time to get my computer working as well.
Well, there's a saying that, when there's problems, it means we're going to have a great show because, that's what happens when you do something very important. All kinds of things always occur. So let's get right to it and not waste any
Okay.
moment because we've got so much to cover. So, Caralyn, tell us, how was it that you were introduced to Hubbard Dianetic technology?
Okay, this is a really interesting story. I was teaching in Brooklyn, New York, PS 289, within walking distance of where I grew up in Bedford-Stuyvesant. And I was across the hall from a teacher whose classroom seemed more like a family environment. There were lots of good teachers there, but his was a different kind of environment. So I wondered, what's he doing that's different? And I honestly couldn't figure it out from just the observation. And so at the end of the school year, I needed help because I was having trouble with my kids, and I knew it was me, not them, and because I had good kids in my class. And so he said, well, I know something that might be able to help you. And he introduced me to Dianetics by giving me a copy of the book. And so, because I'm a book reader, and I thought, what's this, Dianetics? He says, it's
Right.
about the mind. I said, okay, I must be having trouble with my mind because I'm having trouble with my kids. So I started reading it, and lo and behold, after studying 4 years in college, I had never come upon this information that was practical, that it answered questions, that it helped me to help my children, and also helped me to help a serious problem that I had myself that I didn't want to tell people about.
Well, it sounds like a lot of people, and very common situation. We have things, we're uncomfortable about them, we're looking for a safe place to do something about it, but we don't quite know if we can trust that or not. And
Right.
yeah, wow. So, I was going to ask you, because I know you had relayed the story to me, and I thought it was very interesting of how the Dianetics actually helped you and how it changed your career for you to singing. Tell the
Right.
viewers about that.
Okay, so this is pretty weird. I got married, first of all, to this teacher across the hall from me, and I guess it was a couple of years after we met. And after our first daughter was born, on my birthday, by the way, which was interesting.
Wow.
A lot of women experience postpartum depression and things like that. Well, I didn't really have depression, but somebody offered me a Dianetic session, to handle anything that came up during the birth. So I thought, wow, that's an interesting concept. Yeah, I'd like some of that. And so, sure enough, there were some things that happened during the birth that I wasn't happy about and that were surprises to me. And so we took these up in the session and they resolved, and, I didn't have any more attention on them. And then I thought to myself, I've always kind of wanted to be a singer. I think that's what I'd like to do. Like what? It was out of the blue. And my husband and I moved to the West Coast. We were planning to do that anyway. And I started on my career. I started taking lessons and working with people who had worked with people like very famous people in the field. And so that's when it got started, just from that session and from resolving those situations. Now my attention went on to something very positive.
Interesting. So what happened is like a freeing of your attention and
That's right.
something that was kind of just sitting there on the shelf, and it just came out, and
That's right.
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, let me ask you something, because we've all of us all across the world, really, not even just the U.S., everywhere. During COVID, there's been so much stress. Obviously, some people have lost loved ones, friends,
Right.
family. So I know the question that our viewers have is, can Dianetics help with the feelings of the losses and, the grief of not having them around anymore?
Absolutely. Interestingly, my parents own a funeral home in Brooklyn, New York, and so I was very, very aware of the situation with COVID and the families. But even before this happened, my sister called me because she knows I'm a trained Dianetics counselor, and she had a lady whose son passed away. He was in the military. He had a drowning accident, and it was completely by surprise. It was no military situation. It was just he was on furlough, and he went swimming, and he drowned. And he was in Turkey, so far away from his mother. And she was absolutely devastated. She felt like she couldn't move on in life. And she was a fairly young woman. And so my sister called me in and asked me, can you please help her? And so I sat down with her. I gave her enough information about Dianetic so she would know what to expect. And it took about 3 hours, but I had her address this very painful situation. First, starting with something that she could recall, something more gentle, before we went into the actual full painful situation where the soldiers came to her door. And after about maybe 3.5 hours, her decision was that she felt she could move on with her life. She felt like she was left with more happy memories of her son than the very last one. And she felt relieved. She felt very relieved. So that was just one in many stories that I have of helping people with grief or loss or things like that.
Wow. Well, it sounds like what you did is you let her unburden all of this, the negativity and the hopelessness that she had with the death, right?
Right. But the interesting thing about Dianetics, you see, it's a science. So it's great when you can talk to somebody about what's going on with you. But the difference between Dianetics and just talking with somebody, which of course can be helpful, is that you are very specifically looking at exactly how to guide and steer a person through this situation without yourself adding any opinions, viewpoints, whether they be positive or not. You're not adding anything. You're just allowing them to look, and you're allowing them to get released. And it's a 10-step program, actually, a 10-step procedure, I should say. And it's all in the book Dianetics, which is the one that I read.
Wow. And, can people who are out there in the audience who maybe have had a problem with self-confidence, or maybe they've just always been afraid in group environment, or even just a social environment where they just hold themselves back, can the Dianetics actually help them so they can move forward in life and get into a better position and be promoted?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things that you learn when you read the Dianetics book, and I do lectures on Dianetics pretty much every week, In fact, there's one coming up on Tuesday, the 26th of October at 125th Street, 220 East 125th Street. It's a free lecture. And we go over the two parts of the mind. We're not talking about the brain.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. So anyone can come there and attend?
Yeah, they need to call. They need to contact us. I'll give you the contact data because there's limited seating because of COVID. We don't have a crowd.
Sure, absolutely.
But if they call, then or if we get overflow, then we'll set up another time for the ones who want to come if it fills up. However, but you'll find out that there's two parts of the mind, and it's not the brain. The brain is an organ of the body. The mind is mental pictures. It's memories, and one part of your mind holds happy memories, joyful memories, the things that you study and learn, and that you are fully in control of that part of your mind. The part of your mind that you're not in control of is the one that causes the things you describe: lack of confidence, lack of self-esteem, anxiety, depression, these negative things that don't come from happy memories. They come from negative memories. But the person can't exactly isolate, how did it get that way? Why is it still that way? How can they get released from it?
Makes total sense. You sent a video in, and Engineer Buddha, if you get that video on the screen for the viewers, this is a perfect opportunity to go over how the Dianetics can address these emotions and these conditions that we all go through in life, with losses or with conflicts that we have. So if you could put that video up on the screen, that would be fantastic.
Do you know someone who has never fully recovered from a serious loss in life? Or a traumatic experience? And in your own day-to-day life, do you sometimes experience self-doubts, negative thoughts, unreasonable fears, upsets, or irrational behavior? The painful experiences of our past clearly have an effect upon our present behavior. But to what degree and why? What causes the mind to depart from rational thought or behavior?
It's over!
That is the subject of Dianetics. Every moment of your life, your mind is recording everything that's happening to you. Every sight, every sound, every taste, smell, pain, emotion, touch, everything. These recordings form what is called the time track, a consecutive record of all the experiences accumulated throughout your existence. Your mind uses this information to make decisions and solve problems relating to your survival. The better its decisions, the better you survive. Most of this data is stored in your analytical mind, that part of your mind that thinks, remembers, and calculates. But some of your experiences are not recorded into those analytical memory banks. It is a discovery of Dianetics that all of your painful experiences are stored in a previously unknown part of the mind. It's called the reactive mind, and it throws those experiences back at you in an irrational attempt to get you to avoid the same painful thing from happening to you again. Here's a simple and common example. At some point, you've probably gotten sick from eating tainted food. Later in life, if you see or smell or possibly even think about that particular food again, you start to feel a little nauseous. Now, you know that logically, the mere sight or smell or thought of a food can't physically make your body ill, because you haven't actually eaten it again. And yet you're experiencing the same sick feeling you had before. This is your reactive mind, making you re-experience the same perceptions it recorded in that earlier incident, in a crude attempt to protect you from what it believes is a dangerous situation. It reacts solely on a stimulus-response basis and below your awareness. The painful experiences hidden in your reactive mind are the cause of your fears, insecurities, negative thoughts, unwanted emotions, and irrational behavior. You have been accumulating these deeply buried experiences throughout your existence. In fact, the most damaging among them occurred before you were born. Dianetics reveals how these negative experiences are stored and contains a technology to free yourself from them. What would life be like if all of the pain you've experienced no longer affected your abilities, emotions, and behavior? You would think and behave rationally, making the best possible decisions relating to your survival. You would be able to utilize your imagination and creativity to their fullest. You would be confident, more intelligent and productive and happier. You would be yourself, free to enjoy life and reach your full potential. In short, your mind would be clear. That is the goal of Dianetics. People achieve this state every day, and so can you.
Well, you know, that explains so much, because I know at times I see people have these reactions and I go, what is going on? Because one moment they were sane, the next moment it's like I have a different person in front of me. And then a few hours later after the argument, they're normal again. And so that's so interesting. So let me ask you a question, Caralyn. So people can actually come then, and at this seminar, you'll go over why that's happening?
Absolutely, yeah. It's about an hour long. It starts at 6 and it goes until 7. And we'll go, and not only, it's interactive as well. So it's not just me speaking. We'll be doing some drills, and we'll be giving people examples of literally how do you get released from these negative experiences.
Interesting. And so if they wanted to go further, how does it work? Is there a course that they take that explains to them, or explain to me a little bit more how that happens?
The procedure. Okay. So usually when people come to the live seminar or the live lecture, if they want to, they can have a free one-on-one consultation.
Okay.
Some people, so they can talk about more personally what they want to handle, what they want to address. Another thing they can do, a lot of times people just want to get the book and read it, because the book itself has all the information about the mind, how it works, how do people get released from it, and the goal of Dianetics. Some people want to study it. You know, they want to study the book in the center, in the Dianetics and Scientology Center. It's on 125th Street. And so they will do that. Some people want to actually get what's called Dianetics counseling. And so a free session is offered as well. So these are some of the different things that people can do when they come. But the one-on-one consultation is most popular because then people get to talk to a trained person about very specific things that are happening with them so they can find out, okay, what do I do next?
Absolutely. Have some hope about, the worst thing is to be floundering. And, I know there's been times in my life early on where, you feel hopeless. You feel like there's no solution. And question I had for you, I'm a very audio-visual person. I love videos and things like that.
Yeah.
So can I get this, the Dianetics, can I get it like in a video?
Yeah, there is a video. It's about 2 hours long, and it goes into all the specific information about the mind, the two parts of the mind that I talked about briefly. It talks about the step-by-step procedure of how do you get released from these things. Some people actually want to become trained Dianetics auditors or counselors. They really want to help other people. And I have found that just understanding the mind and having Dianetics, on yourself, you can understand people better. Like you said, I had a guy ranting at me literally for 18 minutes. I checked my watch. And because I understand the mind and how it works, I knew he wasn't ranting at me. He was ranting at life. There were things that were bothering him. So I literally just listened, which an auditor is trained to do. And because I didn't say, oh my gosh, why are you saying that? Or, oh gosh, why are you, because I didn't respond to his rant, I just literally said, wow, okay, I get it. I understand. At the end of it, he said, I'm not directing this at you. I'm just so frustrated, And if I had stopped him in the middle of it, he would have never gotten to the point to really tell me what was going on, So, and then he never did that again. The next time I saw him, he was completely calm, when this guy had a tendency to get into arguments with people easily. So just understanding the mind, understanding what's happening with people, it prevents you from triggering this response in other people unbeknownst to you. This is very good for marriages, let me tell you. Husbands and wives can trigger each other, and say things and push buttons. And when you understand the mind and how it works, you just don't do that, You let the person rant if they need to. I mean, obviously physical abuse wouldn't be included in this, but
Right.
you get the person to just let off the steam. You listen. If they know you're really listening, they won't keep repeating the same thing over and over again. And they'll come to some rational conclusion themselves for the most part, or you just take them and get them into a Dianetic session, so they can get to the root of it.
That makes total sense. When you think about the divorce rate being so high in society,
Yeah.
and you think about really, and I think most of us experience this, is we get into an argument and it ensues and all kinds of things happen. Maybe something gets broken, something gets thrown at the wall. Let's be real here. That's human behavior. That's life. That's the way it is. Nobody's going to be perfect. And then at the end of it, we look at that and we go, what was I doing? Why did I do that? How could that be? So that's interesting what you're saying, because now this other person, if they're trained, like you said, if they're a trained counselor in the Dianetics, they understand what's going on. And it gives them, it's kind of like having a compass when you're lost in the forest and you go, oh, okay, that north is that way. And that's pretty much what you're saying, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, my husband and I have been married for almost 48 years now.
Okay.
Seems unbelievable. And there have been times when I've said to him, okay, you know what? You're going to have to be the auditor and listen to me, or I'm going to have to be the auditor and listen to you. We can't both be letting off steam at the same time. But we have that option.
Right.
We have that choice. If we didn't have this training, we both explode. And, you get to situations where sometimes it's not you that caused it. Sometimes it's a third party. And then the children, oh my gosh, how they're affected by parents not being able to keep a marriage together. Many times way into their teen years, way into their 20s, 30s, they are still affected by the loss of the parents splitting up, or maybe a father just not ever being around, or the mother, passing away at an early age. There's just so many situations that carry forward with other people in the family.
Makes total sense. And I was going to ask you a question because we're running out of time on the show.
Oh, okay.
So if people want to come, your seminar again was what night, or was it any night?
Yes. It's one night. It's Tuesday, the 26th of October. It's how to remove negative thinking patterns from past trauma and renew your vitality. Okay.
Wow. And the phone numbers, that we put the phone number up on the screen for you.
Okay, so
You know?
yep, 228. Do you have two? Well, first of all, it's 212-828-1825. That's the number. And they can reserve a spot. They really should call and reserve. And the address, I think I gave you the wrong address. We have two buildings. It's actually going to be in our community center at 228 East 125th Street, and that's near 2nd Avenue.
Well,
And it's from 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock.
So, okay. Well, unfortunately, we've run out of time on the show, but it's a pleasure having had you on the show. And in all honesty, I think there's a lot more we have to cover. So if I can have you back again, is that possible?
I would love to. I would love to come back again. Yes.
Absolutely, because I'm just thinking how many people out there have been affected with their families, the stress of COVID, losing jobs, getting sick, so many things. So, thank you, Caralyn Percy, for being on the show.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. Much appreciated.
Oh, it's a pleasure. And I'm very glad that we had this for our viewers and that you avail yourself of this technology and live a more peaceful, stress-free life with this Dianetics. So for right now, we're going to sign off, and I look forward to seeing you on our next episode of A Time for Truth. See you then.
Bye-bye.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got. But the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your fears